Anne of Cleves was born into a world of royalty. Her father was the Duke of Cleves. This was a powerful duchy in Germany, Europe. Anne was born in 1515. She was a gentle soul raised in a strict household. Anne's upbringing was typical of noble women. She learned domestic skills, including needlework and managing a household. Anne was also taught religious principles. She was a devout Catholic. Her family had strong political connections. Her brother became the Duke of Cleves, making Anne a valuable asset in the world of royal marriages. Her life took a dramatic turn when King Henry VIII of England sought a new wife. By the late 1530s, King Henry VIII was in a difficult position. He needed a male heir. His marriage to Jane Seymour had produced a son, Edward. However, Edward was a sickly child. Henry needed to secure the Tudor dynasty, so he decided to marry again. Anne of Cleves came into the picture because of her brother. Her brother had formed an alliance with Protestant German princes. He saw a chance for a political advantage. He needed to strengthen his position against Catholic France and Spain. The king's advisors suggested Anne as a suitable bride. They praised her noble lineage and her family's Protestant leanings. Henry VIII said, "I agreed to the match and sent my court painter, Hans Holbein the Younger, to Cleves. I want a portrait of Anne." Hans Holbein the Younger travelled to Cleves. He met Anne and painted her portrait. The portrait showed a fair-haired, pleasant-looking woman. Henry was pleased with what he saw. He eagerly anticipated his new bride's arrival in England. Anne arrived in England in December 1539. She landed at Deal in Kent. The king was eager to meet his bride. He went to Rochester in disguise. He wanted to see Anne before the official welcoming ceremony. The meeting was a disaster. Henry said, "I was immediately disappointed. I found Anne unattractive and complained that she was nothing like her portrait. I called her the Flanders mare." Despite his misgivings, the king went ahead with the wedding. Henry VIII and Anne of Cleves were married on 6 January 1540. The ceremony took place at Greenwich Palace. Anne was now Queen of England. However, the king was already unhappy. He made no secret of his dislike for his new wife. "Anne was not a virgin. She was not as beautiful as I had been led to believe." The king wanted to end the marriage. He was desperate for a son. He convinced himself that Anne could not give him one. Anne was caught in a web of political intrigue. She was a pawn in Henry's quest for power and an heir. She was also a victim of the king's fickle affections. She had committed no crime. She had done nothing wrong. Yet her... Section 5. A swift separation. Henry VIII moved quickly to end his marriage to Anne of Cleves. The union, which had been politically motivated, was surprisingly not to the king's liking. The marriage has never been consummated. Henry found Anne unattractive and was eager to find a way out. He declared that the marriage had never been consummated. He claimed that Anne had been promised to another man before their wedding. This was a convenient excuse for Henry to dissolve the marriage. These claims were flimsy at best. However, no one dared to contradict the king. Henry's power and influence were immense, and his word was law. Anne understood the precariousness of her situation. Anne was wise enough to cooperate with the king's wishes. She agreed to an annulment. Her compliance ensured her safety and a generous settlement. The marriage was dissolved in July 1540. Anne had been Queen of England for less than 7 months. Despite the short duration, she managed to secure a favourable position. The annulment was granted on the grounds that Anne had been pre-contracted to another. This legal manoeuvring allowed Henry to move on without much opposition. This meant that she had been promised to someone else before her marriage to Henry. The pre-contract was a convenient loophole. It was also declared that the marriage had never been consummated. This further solidified the grounds for annulment. Henry was free to marry again. His quest for a suitable wife continued, driven by his desire for a male heir and personal satisfaction. Section 6. The King's beloved sister. Anne of Cleves emerged from her annulment with remarkable grace. Despite the unexpected turn of events, she maintained her dignity and poise, winning the admiration of many at the Tudor court.
"I will not fight the king's decision. I accept it with a calm heart."
She did not fight the king's decision. Instead, she chose to embrace her new reality with a serene and composed demeanor. She did not return to Germany in disgrace, rather she stayed in England, carving out a new life for herself in a foreign land. Instead, she accepted Henry's offer to become the king's beloved sister. This title was not just a formality, it was a mark of respect and affection from the king.
I accept the title of the king's beloved sister. It is an honor to hold such a position.
Anne was given Richmond Palace and Hever Castle as her residences. These were grand properties, befitting her new status and providing her with a luxurious lifestyle. They were a sign of the king's respect for his former wife. Henry VIII ensured that Anne was well taken care of, reflecting his appreciation for her understanding and cooperation. Anne also received a generous allowance. This financial support allowed her to maintain a household and live comfortably. She was able to live in comfort and style, enjoying the privileges that came with her new title and position. Anne adapted well to her new life in England. She embraced the culture and customs of her adopted country. She learned to speak English fluently, which helped her integrate more easily into English society and communicate effectively with those around her. She developed a good relationship with Henry's children, Mary, Elizabeth and Edward. Her kindness and warmth endeared her to them. She even became friends with Henry's sixth wife, Catherine Parr. Their friendship was a testament to Anne's ability to form meaningful connections and navigate the complexities of the Tudor court. Section 7. A Life of Privilege. Anne of Cleves, the fourth wife of Henry VIII, led a life that many would envy after her marriage was annulled. Her story is one of resilience and adaptation in a time of great political and religious upheaval.
Anne of Cleves enjoyed a life of privilege and independence after her annulment. She was granted a generous settlement, which included several estates. These estates provided her with a substantial income, allowing her to live comfortably and maintain a household befitting her status. She managed her own estates with a keen eye for detail and entertained lavishly. Her homes became centers of social activity, where she hosted banquets and gatherings that were the talk of the court. Her ability to navigate the complexities of estate management was impressive for a woman of her time. Her diplomatic skills and gracious demeanor earned her the respect of many.
Anne was also free from the pressures of being queen. Unlike her predecessors and successors, she did not have to navigate the treacherous waters of court politics or the constant scrutiny that came with being the king's wife. She did not have to bear children or deal with the dangers of courtly intrigue. This freedom allowed her to focus on her own interests and well-being, a rare luxury for women of her time. She was a devout Catholic at a time when England was undergoing a religious Reformation. The shift from Catholicism to Protestantism under Henry VIII's rule was a turbulent period, yet Anne navigated it with grace. However, she managed to maintain her faith without incurring the wrath of the king. Her ability to balance her personal beliefs with the changing political landscape was a testament to her wisdom and diplomacy. She remained a loyal subject of the crown. Her loyalty and discretion ensured that she remained in the king's good graces, which was no small feat given the volatile nature of Henry VIII's court.
Anne also witnessed the ups and downs of Henry VIII's later years. She saw firsthand the toll that his health and marital issues took on him and the court. She saw the king marry two more wives, Catherine Howard and Catherine Parr. Each marriage brought its own set of challenges and dramas, which Anne observed from a safe distance. She saw the birth of his longed-for son Edward and the death of his only legitimate son. These events marked significant moments in Tudor history, and Anne's unique position allowed her to witness them closely.
Section 8. Outliving a King.
Anne of Cleves outlived Henry VIII by 10 years. She died on 16th July 1557, at the age of 41. She was buried in Westminster Abbey. She was the last of Henry's wives to die. She was laid to rest in a place of honor.
Anne's death was mourned by many. She was remembered as a kind and gentle woman. She had been a loyal friend to the king and his family. She had lived a life of dignity and grace. She had made the best of a difficult situation. Anne of Cleves is often overlooked in the history of Henry VIII's wives. She was married to the king for less than a year. She never had the chance to be a true queen. However, she left her mark on history. Section 9. A Lasting Legacy. Anne of Cleves may have been the forgotten queen in some respects, but her legacy is significant. She demonstrated remarkable resilience and adaptability in the face of adversity. She turned a potentially humiliating situation into a position of strength and independence. Anne's story challenges the traditional narrative of Henry VIII's wives as victims of his tyranny. She negotiated her own fate. She secured a comfortable and respected place for herself in English society. She did so without compromising her principles. Anne's life offers a valuable lesson in resilience, diplomacy, and self-preservation. She navigated the treacherous waters of Henry VIII's court with grace and intelligence. She emerged from the experience with her head held high. Section 10. Anne's Quiet Triumph.
Anne of Cleves' story is a reminder that history is not always written by the victors. Sometimes it is the quiet, the forgotten, and the overlooked who offer the most compelling stories.
Anne's life, though brief and seemingly insignificant in the grand scheme of Tudor history, speaks volumes about her character and strength.
She was a woman who refused to be defined by her marriage or lack thereof. She carved out her own path. She lived her life on her own terms.
In a way, Anne of Cleves achieved a quiet triumph. She found peace and contentment in a world that was often anything but peaceful.